What is the truth about being a startup CEO? You may think that being a successful startup CEO has everything to do with coming up with the next great idea. And sure, coming up with a great idea is part of the puzzle for startup success. However, success as a startup CEO has a lot more to do with many other things that have nothing to do with your idea. And that's what today's video is all about. I'll share with you the 10 surprising keys to success as a startup CEO. Spoiler alert, none of these 10 keys have anything to do with your idea. I hope you like it. Hi, I'm Brett. On my channel, I help early stage startup CEOs like you raise money and grow your startup. So if this sounds like you, then hit the subscribe button and the bell so you get notified every time I release a new video. Let's get started. And let's start with number 1 on my list. Number 1, your journey will be unique. When I started my company, I got a lot of well-meaning advice from my friends, family, business associates, and investors. All of them were telling me what I should and shouldn't do. Here's the deal. The set of circumstances you operate under will be unique to you. You might not have the same success. You might not have the same access to talent. You might have an easier time raising money because the economy is doing better. The market might or might not break the way you think. All of these things and more will be unique to you. Your job will be to make sense of the crazy things around you and figure a path forward. It's not easy, but it can be done. The rest of my list will give you some things to think about that might help you in your situation. So let's move to number 2 on my list. Number 2, learn to communicate. Years ago, there was a brilliant engineer I worked with. Harry had a PhD in electrical engineering, 37 patents, and an MBA. Yet, he was, in my humble opinion, a horrible engineer. He overcomplicated everything he was doing. All you had to do to see it was listen to him speak about one of his designs. He could never explain crisply and clearly what he was doing. Not surprisingly, none of his designs worked that well because they were overcomplicated. The same theory holds for you as a CEO. The skill you are going to use more than any other skill you have is your ability to communicate. You'll have to communicate to potential co-founders and employees to get them to join your startup. You'll have to communicate to potential investors to get them to invest. You'll have to communicate to customers to get them to buy your product. And you'll have to communicate with vendors, yes, vendors, to get them to work with you. Your success in each of the above areas will depend upon your ability to crisply and clearly communicate. Next, let's move to number 3 on my list. Number 3, you can't delegate sales. Most startup CEOs are not expert in sales. And if you fall into this group of non-experts, you'll be tempted to hire a salesperson to handle sales for you. There are 2 reasons this is likely to fail. The first reason is that no one will know the product or service that you are selling better than you. The second reason is that you're not going to likely find a sales manager that is very good when you're just starting out. It doesn't matter if you're an engineer that has never visited customers before or has never been on a sales call. Your passion will win out. I've seen this scenario play out over and over again. Yes, you'll be awkward. Yes, You might not cut the best deal. However, as I said earlier, your passion will win out. And much to your surprise, you'll get pretty good at sales if you stick with it. Next, let's move to number 4 on my list. Number 4, manage the details. I was fortunate to have a lot of great mentors during my career. From Bill, I learned the power of being really detail-oriented. He used to have this very simple way of managing any project or crisis situation. It boiled down to asking the people involved who will do what by when. It's that simple. Let me share the brilliance of this concept with you. Let's say you are onboarding a new customer and you have several milestones involving multiple people or teams that need to be completed. The first step in the process is breaking each step up. Then you ask the people in that group who will be responsible. The answer has to be one person, not two, but one, because you avoid the finger pointing of multiple owners. The next question is, do what? And this asks the team responsible what the specific result will be. The final question is, by when? This is the specific date, not next week, not soon, but the specific date the task will be completed by. You will be amazed how much improvement you'll see if you implement a process like this. Next, let's move to number 5 on the list. Number 5, don't be afraid to clean the toilets. My second job when I was in high school was working at a mobile oil gas station. My first day on the job, my shift manager handed me a pair of gloves and said, "The toilet is clogged and you need to clean it." No one wants to clean the toilet. And maybe you'll be fortunate enough to have a cleaning crew clean your office once a week, but that's not the point. The point is that as CEO, no job is beneath you. You lead by example. And when you show you're willing to do the dirty work, then your team will do the dirty work too. Next, let's move to number 6 on my list. Number 6, it's about your team, stupid. You can have the greatest idea ever, but you'll probably fail if you don't have a great team around you. So make your team your highest priority. Spend at least 50% of your time recruiting. Hire only the best people. Give your team a generous work environment. Be generous with your stock option grants and make sure to refresh their stock options too. Next, let's move to number 7 on my list. Number 7, your humility is a strength. This builds on my previous comments about your team. You don't need to grandstand about how great you are. Instead, follow what US President Harry S. Truman said. It's amazing what you can accomplish if you do not care who gets the credit. Trust me. You're going to get the credit anyways because you're the CEO. However, you'll endear yourself to your team and they'll run through a brick wall for you if you give them the credit. Next, let's move to number 8 on my list. Number 8. Your investors are not your friends, nor are they your enemies. Instead, investors are just that, investors. They're money people. It's really important to understand that there are boundaries in your relationship with investors that are different than your relationship with your co-founders and your team. For example, there are certain things that you can't share with your investors, or you will scare them to death. Then you will likely lose your investor support in the process. For example, there will be a moment, probably many moments, when you're not sure how your company will survive. And being human, You're going to want to share this fear with others. You can't share it with your board or investors, and you can't share this with your co-founders because you'll end up scaring everyone. That's what makes being a CEO so tough. There are very few people with who you can share your deepest fears with. And your investors are definitely not on the list. Next, let's move to number 9 on my list. Number 9, laying people off is the worst thing you'll ever have to do. The best way to prevent this from happening is being what I call appropriately frugal. This means you spend on the areas that are critical to your success, and you try and save money everywhere else. It means that you know your burn rate. You know how much cash you have at any time, and you know when your cash will run out, the exact day if you can, or at least the month. Finally, we move to the last one on my list, number 10 on my list. Number 10, remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Startup success does not happen overnight. The good news is your investors likely understand this too. It is likely to take you 7 to 10 years, yes, from when you start your company until you either have to sell your company or have an IPO. And that's a long time. You'll experience a lot. You'll be tested in all sorts of different ways. I always like to remember a quote from Admiral James Stockdale, the highest ranking US prisoner during the Vietnam War. Stockdale said, "You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they might be." Now, if this content is resonating with you, then please hit the like button right now. One final thought. You can do everything right and still fail. In other words, beware of the person that tells you that all you need is this one thing and you'll be guaranteed startup success. It might be your friend that sold their startup for $300 million or $1 billion and thinks that they know everything. I can guarantee you they don't. Take the advice you're getting, including my advice, with a grain of salt. I like to tell the CEOs that I work with, use the advice you like and throw out the rest. Now, I have 2 more things for you today. First, my free pitch deck template. It has all the slides you need to develop an awesome pitch deck. Click the link below to get yours for free. Second, join my free group of startup CEOs, Zero to Pitch. It's a community for startup CEOs focused on growing their companies and raising funding for their companies. Click the link below to join. Finally, click the subscribe button to get notified every time you release a new video. I'm Brett at brettjfox.com. Thanks for watching today. Take care. Bye.